Welcome to the Thought Brothers show. We've got a big show for you. We've got our pets on the show. Everybody, the three hosts have pets. Their pets have been saying, we want some shine too. And so they contacted me, and so now the pets are all up. We got Stella with this famous eye roll. We got Loki, who's flexing in the back. And we got Cosmo, who's still hanging with the old Redskins Commanders. He's still hanging on.
Go Cosmo! Go Cosmo!
All right, we're going to start off with a guy who's usually our closer, but he's going to kick it off. The young social media commentator, CJ, go ahead. The clock starts now.
All right, what's up, everybody? I'm going to start with something light today. We're going to start with the NBA All-Star Game. We had All-Star Weekend. We had some fun festivities, but we also have some glaring issues with All-Star Weekend that we gotta finally address. So we'll start, like, the skills competition and all that is always fun. You know, 3-point competition, always pretty light. But we got to talk about the dunk competition and also the game itself. The dunk competition is really getting down bad. As we already saw Shannon Sharpe going viral for cooking some of the contestants for some of their weak dunks. We had, especially Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown was, that was pretty bad. He dunked over a 5'3" person in a chair. And this is what we're doing now. It's almost as if we've seen almost like every dunk that you could do. So it's almost like what is left to do other than these gimmicks and props that aren't really doing much anymore. They have to go get Mac McClung from the G League every year to go put on a show and then ship him right back to the G League. As soon as the All-Star Weekend's done, you'll never see him again. Man won't get a shot on an NBA roster, but when they need that white boy to go dunk, they're like, hey, we need you to go entertain the fans. Call him up. And then as soon as the All-Star Weekend, he'll be right back playing for the Delaware Bluecoats or something. But this is getting bad. Like I said, the star power didn't help. People are always asking for more stars to join the game. Jaylen Brown was horrendous. Those are some of the worst bland dunks we've seen in a contest. So we got to figure that out. Either get some new blood in there, try to revamp that. But what's even worse than the dunk contest was the actual game itself. Like, the All-Star Game is approaching the Pro Bowl levels of being unwatchable, as the players don't take it seriously. I remember when I was a kid growing up, the game was always like that in the first half, but in the second half, it became like a competitive basketball game. And then, like, I always enjoyed that. It's okay, you clown around in the first half, doing all the silly stuff, but in the second half, like, play some real games. I want to see a little bit of competitive edge. So I think the solution to that is really to make that game worth something. Similar to baseball, you might put home court of the finals from east to west on the line. So there's something for them to play for. And then they're not just joking around trying not to get hurt for 30 minutes. It's kind of a waste to the fans. So I don't know, anybody else had any thoughts on All-Star Weekend?
200 points. Did somebody say 200 points?
They almost scored, yeah.
Carlos,
they almost scored 400 points collectively.
So collectively, we got 350 plus in a basketball game.
Globetrotters.
Oh, look, where's Pat Riley's defense when we need it? I need the 1994 New York Knicks defense at the NBA All-Star Game. What is going on, man? 350 points. Come on, man. 200 by one team. Let me tell you something. I did not watch the All-Star Game. I didn't watch it for the simple fact it's sort of like the NFL's Pro Bowl. It's really unwatchable. And yes, the most exciting thing was probably watching Steph Curry shoot three-pointers against the three-point champion from the WNBA. I mean, it's crazy. The men's three-point contest was still pretty good. And CJ is right. They get with Mac McClung from a G League to come out, get the white boy. We need him to dunk because he's a hell of a dunker. I'm not even sure why he don't have a spot on the NBA team. But they get the white boy. I was like, what does that Asiala Magic mean on his jersey? I thought he was at least playing for the Orlando Magic. He playing for the G League. Man, it's gotten ridiculous, man. Look, I'm just going to say ridiculous. I'm not tuning in anymore. If I want to see All-Star Game, I go back to the 84 All-Star Game at the Forum in LA, watch Marvin Gaye sing a national anthem, see Bird, Magic, and all the great players really play hard. That's all I got to say. What you got?
Well, Carlos, I haven't watched the All-Star Game in the last 2 years. I just think it's truly a waste of time. And I did watch the dunk contest. I did watch the three-point contest. Personally, I think they should just scratch the All-Star game completely. And I listened to what CJ alluded to, Shannon Sharp, and I meant Stephen A. Smith. He just went cold hard on them. And he talked about how the dunk contest is they should get rid of that also, because that's a disappointment. Jaylen Brown, I take my hat off to him. If you recall, he was the only star that was in the dunk contest. LeBron James, this was his 20th All-Star game. And I think, and I don't know this for a fact, I'm sure fact checkers will check it, but I believe he has never participated in the dunk contest in his NBA career. And he talked about all of the other ones there, Anthony Davis and all of those people. They don't participate because they don't think it's something that's that worthy of their time. And I think the money has played a big factor in this. And I agree with you. I recall watching the All-Star game back when Magic, Bird, Michael Jordan, Pippen, those guys played basketball. I can understand a little during the Pro Bowl because we're talking about football versus basketball. And if you played a Pro Bowl game the way you play a regular game, you run the risk of really getting injured and not being able to continue the season. But it's a difference with basketball. So personally, I think they should get rid of the NBA game. That shootout contest between Steph Curry and the young lady from the WNBA was fantastic. And the one point I want to bring out about that is she scored 26 points. If she had been in the other contest, she would have been in the final against Damian Lillard.
That is true. Wow.
Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, some good stuff from the weekend. A lot of great sneakers, which is going to take me to the segue that we got Donald Trump dropped some shoes this weekend. And, we got the biggest scammer of all time who's about to be back in the White House while he's supposedly running for president is dropping some new sneakers, some cheap, horrendous looking shoes. Somebody paid $9,000 for a signed pair or something like that. So, you know, people are already calling them the Aryan Jordans, the January 6s, however you want to call them. But yeah, so it's kind of ridiculous that we still have Trump hawking products as he's trying to make a run for the White House, but just kind of shows you who Trump is and what he is. Like I said, he's the ultimate scammer, and he's on his way to scamming his way to a second term of presidency, which is insane that we have a guy who was hawking Trump steaks and off-brand Jordans and stuff like that is basically the favorite to win the presidential election right now based on every metric of polling.
You know what?
It's pretty sad. That's where we're at. And like I said, it's not much to touch on the Republican side. They're just a deeply unserious party. They're stuck with Trump, whether they like it or not. We'll see how his various 90 charges turn out. So, but on the other side of that, the Democrats are still having an issue with Joe Biden. Everybody was on me for talking about his age, but now it's a mainstream thing that they are very concerned about his age and talking about replacing him at the convention, which would also be a disaster because then you're giving delegates, Joe Biden's delegates, to someone else unelected who didn't run. So instead of running a primary where people could have chosen the candidate, whether it's Kamala or whatever, they're just going to, now it's going to look more and more what it is, a backroom deal where they basically anoint whoever they want to be Joe Biden's successor without the say of the American people, which looks like is their plan B, to try to give his delegates to someone other than Kamala Harris because she's very unpopular. So they're talking about maybe Gavin Newsom or somebody comes in and they give the delegates and they basically tell Biden, you served a good term and sit down, because it's getting really sad. I saw a video today circulating talking about Joe Biden looking strong today. And it was a video of him walking. And he wasn't even walking. He looked like he had crapped his pants during a field sobriety test. And he was just trying to, but it's like, look at how strong he is. If walking is the bar, then we need a new bar. We need a younger person where him walking without falling off a stage is impressive. We need a higher bar. Because again, I give all these criticisms of Democrats, not because I think they're worse than Republicans, but I don't want to see the Republicans elected again. I don't want to see Trump again. I don't want to do another 4 years of Trump. I don't know if I can handle that. And you're telling me the line of defense against a fascist who could end all democracy is Joe Biden then that's an issue. We need a stronger line of defense for democracy. So that's all I'll say for the politics today.
Hey, you know what? I want to back up something. Somebody was talking about these Trump sneakers, and I saw something about some jackass paid $9,000. I went on the website and I looked at some of the fine print. And here's what they say about the Trump sneakers. And this is what you sign up for when you buy them. It says, nothing on the website constitutes a binding offer to sell the products. We reserve the right at any time after your receipt or order to accept or decline your order. The shoes aren't going to come out until July. They're not even going to be shipped until July. And they said, if you buy 2 pair, you get an extra pair of shoelaces. If you buy 2 pair, you get an extra pair of laces. And here's the other one. The images shown are for illustration purposes only and may not be an exact representation of the product that you get. And of course, you can also get the Trump fragrance. And they say that the fragrances are curated to capture the essence of success and determination. And if you take the Trump spray that's victory, you spray that on and you feel the immediate power. There you go. We got a man who's the president, who's a huckster. We should not be surprised. I yield my time back to the crew.
Well, Gary, you know what you just read? If I had to take away from that, the bottom line is you ain't gonna get shit. That's the bottom line. I'm gonna take your $399 and I'm gonna cancel production in July, and you're not gonna get a refund and you're not gonna get anything. That $399 is gonna go towards this legal defense fund for his 91 charges. It's ironic that this guy came out with this sneaker the day after the verdict in New York for the $355 million.
Yeah.
And also the Victory 47 cologne, perfume and cologne, which he's selling for $99. It is ironic that someone can scam people like this, and people are gullible enough to know that you're going to get taken and allow yourself to get taken. The thing that I guess really just amazes me is the privilege that he has and the privileges that are granted to him. I mean, he goes through a trial in New York. The judge hits him for $355 million judgment, bars him from doing business in New York, I think, for the next 3 years. And he immediately comes out with a new sneaker. He was totally disrespectful during the entire trial in New York. The judge at one point even threatened to put him out of the courtroom. And he said, by all means, put me out. I mean, if anybody sitting on this panel spoke to a judge like that in a courtroom, you would be in contempt and you would be in a holding cell with a $1,000 bond hanging over your head within the next hour. But this is what is called privilege. The other thing I'd like to talk about, and I listened to the 2-hour testimony today with the Fani Willis case down in Georgia. She is currently a hearing, I guess an evidentiary type hearing, or a hearing to see if she's going to be allowed to continue as the DA in his racketeering case with the other, I think it's 18 defendants. I think a few of them have bellied up and have decided to cut a deal. But she's currently under investigation for having an affair with Nathan Wade, who is her lead prosecutor on this case. Now, one of Trump's defendants was able to get some information that she and Wade was having an affair, and that they've gone on several trips to the Bahamas, to the Aruba, and different places like that. But I listened to her testimony. I was disappointed in a way because she testified for close to 2 hours. One of the things that most lawyers know and hate is when they have a defendant on a witness stand and the defendant gives them 1 or 2 word answers, yes, no, because you give them nothing to follow up on. During her entire testimony today, she felt the need, and the judge even had to, I guess, admonished her a couple of times. She felt the need to elaborate on every question. I know she was trying to get certain things into the record, but when the lawyer asked you about going to Aruba or to the Bahamas on a cruise, and then you say that Nathan Wade is an international traveler, he's been to 6 different continents, he's got his own cruise agent, and then the lawyer's follow-up question is, he's been to 6 continents, how many have you been to with him? It's elaborations like this that causes problems. The sad part about this, and they expect there will be a verdict sometime within the next week or two. The sad part about this is if she is removed from the case, there's a couple of things you need to know. If she's removed from the case, the entire DA office is removed from the case. And they have to bring in an entire new staff to pick up on this racketeering. And this case is just not a criminal type case. This is a RICO case, which you have to have experience in prosecuting a RICO case. If she's removed, they have to bring in an entire new staff to pick it up, an entire new lead attorney and a DA. The bad part about that is the person that comes in to replace her can not take the case and can dismiss the case and refuse to prosecute it. So that's what you're going into. Also, with what she and Wade are going through right now, even if the judge decides in their favor, it's going to really taint this trial, and no trial date has been set. That's just in the Georgia case. The case of his classified document case down in Florida, that trial date is now set to May. And they are talking about all of these campaign things that Donald Trump needs to do. The Supreme Court case, which is Jack Smith's case here in Washington, D.C., the Supreme Court has not made a decision on this case. So I'm telling you, from what I'm seeing, I'm inclined to believe what Carlos said early on in the year. This case is definitely not going to go to trial before the election. And this guy runs the risk of walking away scot-free.
I told you, he ain't going to trial. They're going to delay it. They're going to delay it until after his 100th birthday, which at that time, 99.9% of the population, unfortunately, does not live past 100. So what I'm basically saying is they're going to delay the trial for the rest of his life. Now, I think we need to give some applause to some of these civil cases that are digging into Trump's pocket, because I think that's the best thing we can hope for. I don't think he's going to jail ever. I think that he'll keep getting fined, and it would almost be an embarrassment to him if he were to die broke whenever that time comes before or after his 100th birthday. Okay, I don't wish any demise on anyone, but reality is I think he's literally trying to delay the trial until after he's no longer on this earth. He'll never go to jail. And if he becomes president again, he'll find a way to try to pardon himself. So I just think that this is what we're in for. And based on CJ's latest reporting on Joe Biden, I think we might need to either hire Olivia Pope from Scandal, or she's already working for one of the parties already, because she's either pumping up Trump or she's tearing down Biden. I don't know. But somebody behind the scenes obviously got that information on that judge. And now we got a scandal going, and looks like it might be the scandal he needs to get back in office. What do you guys' thoughts?
Well, that's why it's so imperative to actually beat Trump politically and not try to rely, just hope that the court cases take him down, because he's Teflon Don. Like you said, he always finds a way to wiggle out. He's white and rich and powerful. So that's hard enough to get anyone with those metrics in jail in itself. So people are just so reliant on that. Like, well, he's got all these charges. Like, you can't assume that's going to take him down. Man's got all the charges. People know about the charges. He's still up in the polls. He's up in every swing state. So people know he's a crook. But like you said, some people are okay with that. That's a section of the country that is cool. And the issue is Joe Biden not making a big enough distinction between him and the criminal, sleazy, horrendous white supremacist guy. Like, I mean, so you have to make a bigger distinction other than I'm a little bit better than him, or he's just got all these charges, because they might not stick. And like I said, and then we're going to end up with Trump because they thought it was going to be a layup going against Trump. It's just very similar to Hillary Clinton and how we got Trump the first time. It's not that they didn't know he was a threat, that they just took him so lightly. They didn't take him seriously. They were too arrogant, thinking that they could beat him so easily. And that's how we got him the first time. And it's going to happen again because of the arrogance of the Democratic Party.
Well, not in Joe Biden's defense, but I read that Trump, I think it was after the verdict in New York, I think it was on Friday, he flew to somewhere, and it was a rally, and the press kind of talked about it because it was Friday night and he thought it was Saturday night. So I think Joe Biden doesn't have exclusivity on memory problems here lately.
No, Trump definitely also has memory problems and makes mistakes all the time, like I said. But again, it just doesn't come off as bad because he has more energy. He's more confident when he makes his mistakes, and Joe Biden just comes across as confused, weak, kind of like actually like senile, and things like actually bringing up conversations that he was talking to people who've been dead since the mid-90s and doing that frequently. And again, you want to make a distinction. You don't want to be like, our old guy is less senile than the other old guy. How about you have somebody who is not senile, and then we don't have to make these comparisons? If we have somebody a little younger and sharper and coherent, we wouldn't even be talking about how similar they are in terms of their mental decline.
Boom.
Boom is right. Boom is right. Banker.
Man. We have hit on some serious topics tonight, okay? But let me start with this one. I remember when I was in my 20s, my father at the church says, Carlos, a lot of things that don't make a difference to you today, at some point in your life will make a difference to you. So as you get older, you'll get more political. You'll start to think about things you never thought about before. And you'll probably want to do something about it. I'm thinking to myself, if I can please get out of this meeting right now, I got a girl I want to go see, take on a date right now. He was right. I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. I was trying to go on a date. I'm trying to go to a movie, dinner and spend some time with this young lady. I'm trying to live the life of a 20-something-year-old single man. And here we go. Fast forward. It's true, man. And the topic I'm going to bring up tonight is this. What makes us obligated to listen or be fans for teams that don't produce? Okay. What is the obligation that says we have to be a certain fan for a team that doesn't give us anything back? Every day, I think one of my favorite comedians, Chris Rock, said, every day I look in the mailbox for my OJ prize, it just ain't there. So what are you cheering for, right? What are you cheering for? So that brings me to my point where sports teams, go after locations to build new stadiums, new arenas. And it's fantastic if the arena or stadium was never there before, in most cases, when it's in a city, right? Because in every city, you usually have a low-income, blue-collar, hard-working person or people who could really use those jobs, okay? And at one point, there was a trend of, I guess, just moving stadiums to cities. And it looks like moving trends, trying to build new stadiums in cities. And, the New York Yankees is rebuilt right across the street from their old stadium. Fenway Park is never rebuilt. They just keep remodeling in Boston. Was in Lambeau Field in Green Bay, owned by the fans. They just keep remodeling, okay? We're not going to talk about the home of the Raiders. They have just gone wherever, whenever, and now they're in Las Vegas. And they got a beautiful place in Las Vegas, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, you know, when I'm from Washington, D.C., born in Washington, D.C., raised in the area, and I hear about, I guess you can say, the Washington Wizards and Washington Capitals and the owner wanting to move the arena out from downtown to across the Potomac to Alexandria, which isn't far. But let me tell you something. Considering the Wizards were one time the Washington Bullets and the Washington Bullets were one time the Baltimore Bullets, people may drive from Baltimore to Landover, Maryland, okay, about an hour, maybe hour down the Beltway, hour, 15 minutes down the Beltway to see a Bullets game in the DMV area, okay? They may drive an hour and 15 minutes. They may even drive 90 minutes straight down to Baltimore, Washington Parkway from Baltimore to Washington, cut through traffic in DC. But they ain't gonna drive 2 hours or 2 hours plus to drive from Baltimore through Maryland, through DC, cross the Potomac, and go to Alexandria, Virginia. I don't care how close it is. So now virtually what you're doing is turning this team into the Virginia Wizards and the Virginia Capitals, which they're probably not going to change the name. They're just going to hold the name of the city of Washington, D.C. ransom and, you know, force people to try to make it someplace that, you know, they probably can't make it. And it's not just like we're going to see the L.A. Lakers with Kareem and Magic. We're not going to see the Miami Heat with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, or we're not going to see Shaq and Kobe. We're going to see literally a team that can't win a game hardly. We're going to see even the hockey team, which had won the Stanley Cup a few years ago, can't seem to win a game. I mean, they have more 9 or 10 game losing streaks than they do winning streaks. So you think about all of that, and a team should uplift the community, right? I believe that. Like a team like, you know, Washington Redskins, you know, if all the people say the name's not politically correct, hey, I understand it's your opinion, whatever the case may be, you know. But when the Washington Redskins played in Washington, D.C., the police chief said there's only 2 times in Washington, D.C. where crime comes to a complete halt. It's when there's a snowstorm and when the Washington Redskins play. He was right. Every time stood still, and because they were winning, there's less crime after a victory. It sounds crazy, right? But people are actually loving each other instead of hating each other and going out and committing crime. It's crazy how it shouldn't affect. On paper, it shouldn't make a difference. It shouldn't affect the community, but it does. So whether you win, where you have your stadium located affects. And all those blue collar people in DC, it may not seem like a lot, but if you're using public transportation to go from Southeast DC to downtown, you probably can do that. But now you're looking at public transportation to go from Southeast DC to try to get across the Potomac River. Ain't no straight shot on that. And even if you ride the subway, you're riding around in circles before you get to the destination. It's going to be extremely hard for some of those low-income people to try to get you know, jobs out there or even get there. And if they don't get there and they're too late or they're too often absent, they're going to lose their jobs. The neighborhood of Alexandria, where they're building where they hope to build the stadium, because now there's a lot of opposition from Virginia lawmakers and residents. You know, let me tell you something. There is a low-income community in every community. But the size of the low-income community in Alexandria is very small compared to DC, okay? Or even parts of Maryland. So I think the owner of, you know, Washington Monumental Sports or the Capitals, Wizards, etc., you know, it's all about making money. It's almost like the hell with the people. Let's just make some money. They built that arena downtown and revitalized downtown DC, and it was much needed, okay? It was a much nicer place after they built the arena in Chinatown than it was before. And they're not doing anything. He's just hell-bent on moving his team out. So you know what? What I would say to the people, if he moves his team out, I would say, why are you going to support a team that doesn't give back to you? In order to get support, you need to give support. And if he's going to move those, he doesn't have to. They're going to give him $500 million to stay in D.C. Is it about the people, or is it just going from, I don't know what his net worth is. Is it about going from increasing his net worth from $5 billion to $6 billion? Or maybe it's from $99 billion to $100 billion. I don't know. But I'm just saying, at some point, in order to have a great team, a great organization, you need to have a great fan base, and you need to support that fan base the way this fan base supports you. So I know I took a lot of my time to jump on that topic, but I think it's more about people than it is the product in this case. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
Yeah, I actually have a lot of thoughts. This has been a really, really hot button issue locally. Yeah, as you said, with the stadium moving and how the impact it will have on the community. And I agree with you largely that it is a money move. It's a greed move. They even project it, and I know one of the DC representatives was really funny about this. In the projections for the stadium, they have playoff games projected. The Wizards haven't won a championship since the 70s. They are currently 9-45 right now. Like that ain't what playoffs. Like again, you're projecting imaginary money, but again, it's about money. They're projecting it's not about the jobs they're creating in this community. It's about the bottom line for the billionaires. And again, it's also a huge issue that taxpayers are subsidizing these $1 billion stadiums from these billionaires. You could pay for your own stadium. You don't need the taxpayers subsidizing that for you. That's another issue where that impacts this issue of where these stadiums get built, because they want to go the places where they're going to get subsidized the most from the taxpayers and not have to come out of their own $1 billion pockets. Because again, as you said, it's about building $1 billion profits instead of building the community. And as you said, the Commanders or Redskins have a great storied history, but the Wizards have sucked my entire life. Literally, I'm 30 plus years old, and I have not seen that team be good for a consistent span of time. Like just a gutter franchise. So again, you can't act like this is we're moving the Lakers and the Knicks here. Like this is the Washington Wizards. So that's something else to keep into consideration.
Thank
Bill,
you, CJ.
Bill, before you go on, I'm just looking at Stella, and Stella's not too pleased. I think she agrees with Carlos and CJ.
Well, the only thing I'll say, Carlos, is I've seen this show before.
Yep.
I saw this show years ago when I went over to Potomac Yards when Jack Kent Cooke was there, Doug Weiler was there, and they broke ground for the new Redskins Stadium. So like I said, I've seen this show before. And trust me, those people in Old Town Alexandria, where there's a lot of old money and a lot of people who work on Capitol Hill live in Alexandria. If they don't want that stadium over there, I think it's going to be a rough sell. And last night, I heard that the labor union is against them putting people to work because they said the jobs are going to be low-income jobs. And my last point is, and you probably won't agree with this, but I put Ted Leonis in the same category of Dan Snyder. He's greedy. And I agree wholeheartedly with CJ. These guys could build these stadiums out of their own pocket.
That's correct.
But they want taxpayers to subsidize their stadiums. And as you said, it's not a winning team. If you had a winning team, then maybe you're not going to justify it in that way either. But, I believe that what he's trying to do, and I don't think they're going to be able to build a stadium there. I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to mess with DC. He wants 600, I think it's 600 million that he wants from DC. DC offered him 500 million, and he's using Virginia as a bargaining tool.
Wow.
So I put him on the same pedestal as Dan Snyder, just a greedy billionaire.
One quick fact before we actually go to the summary was that also, if I'm not mistaken, Potomac Yard, that means they would destroy or tear down all the retail that's currently there to actually build the new stadium. I could be wrong, but I think it's a Target and some more stuff, like maybe 30 stores that are there where people would lose their jobs at Potomac Yard. So this project could be built. So that's even more destruction among the low-income people who really need their jobs.
That's right.
Yep.
Crazy.
All right, gentlemen, final round, 3 minutes. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. CJ, you're up.
Well, I'll go back to where more billions of our tax dollars have gone, and that is to Israel, who has now basically declared themselves a rogue state that says they will not comply with any international law, regardless of what that is, and they're going to continue their campaign despite, regardless of whether they get the hostages back or not. There was a deal in place to end the fighting. to actually have a ceasefire and return all the hostages, Israel declined that deal. They want to continue their genocide and continue to bomb a civilian population, which the U.S. is now finally saying that they're against, but they won't do any. They won't actually stop sending money. So they sent another aid package with, look, I think $10 billion of our money to go kill some more innocent people. And again, this is becoming not just a huge political issue for everyone, especially Joe Biden, who's in the White House right now, and the Democrats, who are supposed to be the less bloodthirsty party. And it really is hurting Joe Biden in another way, because another way that he was distinguishing himself from Trump was he was the moral good guy. He was the good moral, kind of nice guy. You can't really do that when you're actively arming and supporting a genocide that has killed over 12,000 children. You can't really play the high moral ground on that. So again, that's another thing that's hurting him politically, but just morally, and just from a tax standpoint of how many issues we have at home with crime, with drug abuse, with all types of domestic issues. We still have no healthcare system. Joe Biden, he relieved the student debt for, I think, like 150,000 people, which is good. The problem is 44 or 43 million people have student loan debt. So again, like, you canceled about 1% of student loan debts, which I guess is better than nothing, but I don't understand the move of not. It just shows that you could cancel more or all of it, and it's showing that you're choosing not to, which is, again, I don't think it's doing what he thinks it is in terms of, hey, I'll help the young people out just a little bit so I could try to get some votes, but that's not enough young people. And then also it highlights that you could be helping more people, and you're making a policy choice to not to, just like you're making a policy choice to arm a brutal active genocide that is, again, killed over 12,000 children at this point. There was a great debate on Piers Morgan between Norman Finkelstein and Rabbi Shmuley a couple of days ago. That was great, but it really shows how indefensible the Israeli position is, because even Piers Morgan talking to Rabbi Shmuley is like, you got nothing. All you're doing is ad hominem attacks, because how are you going to defend a state that has killed 12,000 children and counting? And that is the there's no strategy for victory. They said they're trying to eliminate Hamas. They're creating new Hamas members with every innocent family they annihilate. So there's no end game to this, as Piers Morgan stated out, that there's no plan to victory other than an ethnic cleansing. And the issue with that, again, is that we are funding it with our taxpayer money. So again, I would like to see us stop funding a genocide and maybe get some health care or, something over here in America.
All righty. Next up, I believe, is one Mr. Spivey.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback off of some that CJ said, and I don't know whether his facts are incorrect or whatever, but I heard earlier today that Joe Biden signed an executive order, and he forgave something like $125 billion in student loan debt, and it's a little bit more than 1%, because the Supreme Court knocked down his first try. I think it was $450 billion. But anybody who had a student loan and has paid on it for the last 2 years, it was reduced today. Secondly, it troubles me what's going on over in with Netanyahu and the bombing of the people over there. But the thing of it is that I believe. I think I've lost my video here. The thing of it is, I believe that I think Biden has asked him to stop. I don't think it's anything that the U.S. can do to make Netanyahu stop what he's doing. I just think that's ludicrous to think that we have the power to do that. I was listening to the news the other night with my wife, and I think they said on the news something about the U.S. is looking at ways to investigate the death of the Russian guy who Putin supposedly assassinated in prison. We can't do anything about those type of things. I mean, how would you feel if Putin wanted to come over here and do an investigation on all of these Black unarmed kids being killed? The U.S. just does not have that power. I know we consider it to be a superpower, but we cannot interfere in every foreign country's problems, and we definitely can't tell a foreign country what to do. The last thing I want to bring up is the gentleman, I think his name is Alexei Smirnov, who was the gentleman who was supposed to testify for the Republicans. And Gary, you shaking your head. He was the guy that told him that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden had received $5 million. He is now was in court today because they found out he met on several occasions with the Russians, and they were the ones that told him to plant that story because Putin wants to influence the election coming up in 2024. And if he can discredit Biden through Hunter Biden, that he'll be able to do that. So it's a lot of stuff going on right now. As I said before, it's very sad what's going on overseas with all of the people being killed over in Gaza. But keep in mind, there's a lot of people being killed here in this country on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I actually have the numbers for you too, just in response. Biden canceled about $1.2 billion in student loan debt out of the $2 trillion in student loan debt. So that is
He canceled it on an executive order. I wanted to bring that up because you always talked about how how he had the power to do certain things on an executive order. The Supreme Court knocked down the $450 million that he wanted to do initially.
Yeah, but he could have done that with this executive order, but he chose to do a smaller amount is what people are mad about.
Well, I think any amount is better than no amount. And a lot of young kids are mighty happy tonight.
About 1% of them who have the student loan debt. And
I wish I was one of those 1%.
But why not do more than 1%? Wouldn't that be more helpful to not just the country and the electorate, but also like helping you get more votes? And also for the Netanyahu question that you had before, what could we do about it? We could stop giving them billions of dollars. That is the leverage that we have over Israel, specifically more than any other country, because they are basically a Middle East proxy state for us. And we arm them, we fund their Iron Dome, we just give them billions and billions of dollars in weapons. So the leverage we have is we could stop giving them a blank check. We can't specifically make Netanyahu do anything, but that would definitely use our leverage as the people arming them and giving them all the bombs and guns to do the genocide. We could stop that. That would be leverage that the Joe Biden administration could use against Israel. But again, they're choosing not to, as reporters are pressing them. That is an option that you could stop funding them, or you can put conditional aid and say, hey, stop the genocide, or we stop giving you money. But they're not willing to do that. They're going to arm Israel no matter what they do, even if they're being tried in the International Criminal Court for genocide. We're going to, and the UN resolution this week, we were the only country that blocked the ceasefire resolution this week. We are the sole people stopping peace in this conflict right now. So we can't say that there's absolutely nothing we can do. We are uniquely the only country that could probably reel in Israel. Every other country, there's not a damn thing that they could do. But we, the ones funding them and supporting them and giving them the ability to do it, is absolutely something that Biden and his administration could do, which is the frustration of the entire international community.
Well, I'll call your attention to history. And there's been many other times where we have been funding different things or causes that's going on. And the United States has put up embargoes and things of this nature to try to curtail it. And guess what? It didn't stop anything. So I will tell you, I firmly believe if we don't give Israel another dime, Netanyahu is going to continue to drop his bombs.
At least we won't be funding it. I'm fine. Like if we can't control them, that's fine. But I'd rather not have my taxpayer money supporting that.
All right. So we got some perspectives here. Banker man,
Bring it home.
You closing the show, man. What you
All
gonna
right, man.
do? What you gonna do?
Here's what we're gonna do, man. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna transition to the war at home.
Thank you.
I'm gonna transition to the war at home, okay?
Okay.
Then I'm gonna take it out on some since we started to transition into basketball, I'm gonna give you a basketball transition at the end. So here's what we're gonna do. Man, we still fighting the war at home, man. We got drug addiction, we got people who can't afford to put food on the table. We still got people getting shot just because they in the house, just because they outside the house, just because they didn't park the car. We getting people getting taken out the cars, carjacked. We got so many issues at home that, I understand we have to take care of our allies you know, so if a war breaks out at a future date, that they'll take care of us. But I think we need to do a better job of managing what's happening at home. If we do a better job of managing what's happening at home, we can have a more productive country. Okay, we have a more productive country. That means we'll increase our country's wealth. Okay, it's a big world outside the United States. Like, there's actually people who live in other countries beside the United States. There's actually other economies like India and China that make a lot of money. If we can educate our people and take our people to the next level, we can actually we have the technology, we have the freedom, we have the opportunity to change the world literally and make a lot of money outside of your county, outside of your state, outside of your country. Like I said, China right now and India, two highest populated countries in the entire world. If you make a product and sell it over there, you're going to make some money. Okay. So I think we have to stop thinking small and think big. With that being said, we also got to stop killing each other. I just read an article about a Georgia high school football coach who drove to Maryland on an on and off again a relationship with a woman in southern Prince George's County and strangled her to death. And then he drove to somebody's house in Virginia and lied and called the police. They said, no, you need to turn yourself in. Now the state's attorney in PG County is, trying to prosecute the guy. Like, what? Like, you're supposed to be a leader of young men and you're out here strangling a woman. We got to do a better job of leading our people. Okay. I'm not going to go too much further into that, but I think everybody just needs to take a look in the mirror. Okay. And see what we can do to make things better ourselves. It says in the Bible, thou shalt not kill. That should be an easy one for us. And I think we got to start there, whether you got a firearm or you don't. The other thing is from a basketball perspective, the quality of the NBA, talking about the All-Star game, that was just terrible. I'm thinking about what I used to think was a bad day in college basketball was when at the time, my favorite college basketball team, Georgetown, lost to Villanova in the NCAA championship. I thought that was a bad day in college basketball. I'm like, they'd only been to the championship 3 times in 4 years, and I thought that was a bad day. Woo! It's really bad now in 2024. And then the other thing is I thought it was a bad day with my second favorite team, the New York Knicks, with Patrick Ewing and John Starks and that crew lost in Game 7 to the Houston Rockets. I thought that was a bad day, but they were really entertaining to watch. They actually fought more than they played basketball. And they were darn good at it. And but I think as we head into basketball season, we transition out of NFL football into basketball season. Hopefully guys like the Joker up in Denver, I don't know if they're doing too well right now, but the Joker up in Denver, number 77 for the Dallas Mavericks, Steph Curry, LeBron James. Hopefully some of the big superstars really step up and actually entertain us, because with all the things going on in today's world, guys in the NBA, please give us a little bit of a break with a great game. That's my ending for tonight.
All right, folks. You can always join the conversation. You can go to blackmeninamerica.com and scroll down and leave a comment. You can go to the Thought Brothers website. You can go to the YouTube channel and leave your comments. You can be a part of the conversation because we had enough topics and enough tension this evening to make things worthy, which is good, Right, Stella? Woo! All right. Hey, everybody, we are the Thought Brothers, and until next week, we are out of here.
All right.
Good night, everyone.